So far in our video series, we've answered the following questions. What is ISO 17025? Next, we examine why do we need standards at all? Why is ISO 17025, its policy, procedure, and instructions, even matter? Why is ISO 17025 so important to us in forensic science? Why should the criminal defense community care about ISO 17025 was another video. How can ISO 17025 provide for a simple method to develop themes for cross-examining experts? How can ISO 17025 be used by the criminal law practitioner to help get discovery? Can ISO 17025 answer the question as to who the actual analyst is? Also, we examine how can ISO 17025 help minimize the particular problem of fraudulent credentials of forensic scientists that populate the industry. How ASCLD Lab International conflicts with ISO 17025 and the honest scientific reporting of uncertainty measurement in forensic science was our last video. In today's video, we seek to tie all of these other posts together into something meaningful to the practitioner. And that is what I aim to do with this video. While it's important to note for the criminal law practitioner that ISO 17025 is coming to a laboratory near you, it provides only a useful framework from which the minimum standards of scientifically acceptable policy, procedure, and instructions result in an overarching quality management system. Again, these are minimum safeguards that are recognized per ISO and certainly do not constitute or endorse a lab to produce a forensically acceptable result at the end of its implementation of ISO 17025 quality management system. Just for a moment, consider this. Do you want a doctor who only meets the minimum standards or a lawyer who only does the minimum effort? Of course not. You want more than that. You deserve more than that. We do in labs too. Some of the most striking inadequacies of ISO 17025 and ASCLD Lab's interpretation of it concerns the definition of customer, as described in our earlier videos, as well as when and if uncertainty measurement should be reported and detailed, as we've discussed before. With the quote-unquote customer designation being interpreted as the prosecuting authority under ASCLD interpretation, uncertainty measurement will not likely be reported at all. Another systemic shortcoming of ISO 17025 and ASCLD Lab's interpretation of it comes in the basic form of true Bayesian-based expanded uncertainty reporting. While they address for the first time the need to be uniform and consistent in the approach towards testing and calibration among laboratories, within a laboratory, and even down to the analyst, they focus exclusively on the quantification of the unknown. It leaves completely untouched and unaddressed, except maybe indirectly in the method validation requirements, the importance of the qualitative measurement and its validity. Nowhere in ISO 17025 is the need to be selective and specific in a reported qualitative measurement report directly even addressed. This rush and this massive concern to be able to express uncertainty measurement only in terms of quantification seems to be placing the cart before the proverbial horse. And here's why, and it only makes sense. If one focuses on the quantitative measure alone, but cannot first be certain that the method employed is one that results in a qualitative measure that is both selective and even specific to the exclusion of all other possible methods and conclusions in terms of the qualitative result, then there can be no real value in the measure itself. In other words, the key question of does the method exclusively and uniquely measure what we need to have measured remains unaddressed. William Thomson, who was the first Baron Kelvin, who was born in 1824 and died in 1907, once wrote, "When you can measure what you're speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure it, When you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. It can be the beginning of knowledge, but you have scarcely, in your thoughts, advanced to the state of science, whatever the matter might be. The days of ISO 17025 are shortly coming upon all of us. If the defense bar is properly prepared, then we can provide to the trier of fact and the citizen among us who's entrusted us with his liberty that final and all-important last check to the unfettered power of the great Leviathan that is the government. You see, it is up to us, armed with complete knowledge, to defend the citizen among us who's been accused of a crime. It is through our own ignorance that we can ensure that personal tragedy and injustice results. As Albert Einstein once penned, as far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain. As far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality.